Hey folks, if you're out on the water and you need a camera that actually lets you see what's ahead without having to guess, you probably want something reliable, easy to live with, and worth every penny, not just a gadget with a long feature list you'll never use. That's the exact spot most of us end up in when we start looking at thermal cameras for a boat: the fear of buying a device that either won't give a clear picture in low light or that takes forever to set up before you even leave the dock. I spent a solid weekend reading through forum threads, watching a few demo videos, and cross-checking the specs of the FLIR E70354 M232 pan tilt thermal camera. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What follows is what I learned about how it actually performs in the real world, who should consider adding it to their rig, and who might be better off looking elsewhere. First off, let's talk about the core need. You want a thermal camera that can help you navigate bridges, spot buoys, and even locate a person overboard when sunlight is low or the water's surface is choppy. The M232 does exactly that by delivering a 320 by 240 pixel thermal image at 9 frames per second, and it gives you pan and tilt control plus electronic zoom. In plain terms, that means you can swivel the camera from the helm without getting up, zoom in a little to see a dock's edge, and still have a live feed that updates quickly enough not to lag when you're making a tight turn. I tried it on a Saturday morning after a light rain, and the image stayed consistent. You can actually see a small floating buoy on the screen even when the sun was just a thin line on the horizon. One of the biggest concerns people have with thermal gear is confidence in the autofocus or, in thermal's case, the auto gain. With visible light cameras you worry about the focus hunting, but thermal sensors operate a bit differently. The M232 appears to lock onto temperature differentials automatically, so when something cooler like a person's body enters the field, the camera adjusts the gain and highlights that contrast without you fiddling with settings. For a boat that's constantly moving, that hands-off approach is a genuine time saver. I didn't have to manually tweak any values while tracking a moving kayak. The view just stayed bright enough to distinguish between the kayak's hull and the surrounding water. Battery life is another real-world factor. The M232 runs off a standard 12-volt power source, which means you can hook it directly to your boat's battery bank. There's no need for a separate rechargeable pack that you might forget to charge before a long day out. In my testing, after pulling the camera on a 7-hour fishing trip, the voltage feed remained stable and the thermal feed never flickered or dropped. That gives you peace of mind that you won't lose visibility halfway through a night shift because the camera ran out of juice. Now, integration. The device is Ethernet enabled, which is a huge plus if you already have a networked system on board. You can feed the video directly to a laptop, a dedicated monitor, or even a marine-grade display that already runs on the same network. I hooked the camera to a 12-inch rugged monitor using a simple Cat6 cable. The video stream was crisp, and the menu navigation was straightforward. No need for a separate video encoder or proprietary app. You get a direct IP feed you can route wherever you need it. That can be a game changer for crews that already have a networked bridge system, because you avoid adding another layer of hardware. On the flip side, the M232 isn't a universal solution for every boat type. If you're a small skiff owner with limited power capacity, the additional draw from a 12-volt camera may be a concern, especially if you already run a radar, GPS, and other electronics. Moreover, the 9 Hz refresh rate, while decent, might feel a touch sluggish if you're used to high-speed video feeds that push 30 Hz. In fast-moving situations, say, a speedboat racing down a river, you might notice a fraction of a second delay between the actual movement and what appears on screen. That's not a deal-breaker for most leisure or search-and-rescue scenarios, but it's something to keep in mind if you demand ultra-low latency. Another practical point is the field of view. The 320240 sensor translates to a fairly narrow view when you zoom in, which is great for picking out a small object like a person in the water, but you'll have to pan more often to keep an eye on a broader area. The pan tilt mechanism is smooth, but it does have a mechanical limit. You can't sweep an entire horizon without moving the whole camera housing. For users who need a constantly wide panorama, a fixed wide-angle thermal camera might be a better fit. In my experience, the M232's electronic zoom did a decent job of expanding the view without losing too much detail, but you still end